for coming. I'm very excited for this.
Well, I am too.
Awesome.
I'm a little nervous and excited.
Of course. We are here having an interview with Spokane artist Carol Reynolds, and we're very excited because we have a relationship with this artist.
Because I come in a lot.
And you spend a lot of money with us.
Yes, I do.
Yes. So, Carol, I guess we'll just get started with some of the questions that we had written down. I just want to know a little bit about you as an artist and just kind of your journey through the art world. Okay. So, I know this sounds very vague, but when I ask, what is your background as an artist, how long have you been practicing as an artist?
Well, I come from a very artistic family, or creative, I should say, more creative family. And so I started painting or coloring just as a kid. We lived in the country, so just color books and that sort of thing. But it was always something that really, really sparked an interest in me. And when I was I think I was probably a junior high, my mom took an art class and bought oil paints and an easel, and I asked her if I could use them, and of course she let me, and I just fell in love with it. And so that was as an early teenager, I suspect. And then took a couple college courses in art, but always continued doing some sort of artwork, mostly painting, but I've also done quite a little bit of stained glass, so drawing on that. So, but I didn't really get a hold of it until, and start doing a lot of it until about 5 years ago when I retired from my other medical job and had time to do that. So I really have just been doing a lot of watercolor painting since in the last 5 years. Always kind of did it, but not as much as I was able to, I can now.
Now, you mentioned that you were from a creative family. Do you have siblings that are also artists, or were you kind of the only one?
No, my dad is a woodworker and a very, very good woodworker. My mother is a seamstress and just still to this day does a lot of sewing. My older sister is just really creative in many different ways, taking care of her house and choosing artwork in her house, and they're both my siblings are much better about that kind of thing. And my younger sister, who lives here in Spokane, makes signs and has them around town, different kinds of signs, and is always creating something. So that's just something that we just all did some things. Oh, wow. And I always tended towards the drawing and painting and side of it.
So you have a whole lineage of arts within the family. Oh, that's wonderful.
And my nieces all graduated from art school. And it's just part of what we are.
Were you at all interested, did you ever go to art camps when you were younger? Did you attend any kind of art classes, or was it something your parents kind of encouraged outside of the house as far as creativity, or?
No, we didn't have that available to us where I'm from, Othello, which is a small community. Sure. And so I was lucky enough to have a really good art teacher as I don't know if I was probably I took as much as I could, which was probably only 2 semesters all in all. But I had a really good art teacher that encouraged me. And then I took a couple different art classes, drawing and a sculpture class at college. But then, I got married, had kids, and just tried to do it. Just did it on my own.
Right. Now, are you a Spokane native, or?
No, I'm from. I'm really originally from Moses Lake, Washington, but I grew up mostly in Othello, Washington, which is very near. Moses Lake, Columbia Basin.
Were your college classes in Spokane, or were they out?
Oh, I went to WSU.
Oh, okay.
So went to WSU, graduated from WSU. And then met my husband there and got married, and we moved to St. Louis for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Which was a kind of an art treat because we live next to what's called Forest Park in St. Louis, and they have a lot of really fine art shows there, and so got to go see
kind of different artistic cultural climate
Oh, totally. Yeah. Plus music. It's
Oh
very-
yeah, of
yeah,
course, yeah.
yeah.
It's still even very, I guess, progressive in the arts, but
Yeah.
just very, very, just a lot of creativity
Yeah,
going on, a
big
lot
city.
of it. So
Big
yeah.
city.
So I mean, obviously you were very creative as a child. Are there any things in your childhood or growing up, something that has inspired your artwork that you would say now? I mean, I've seen a lot of your work, and I see whimsical. It's something that's very whimsical, and just maybe something comforting from.
Yeah, it's more. It's become more whimsical actually as
Okay.
I've done it. Started out more. Nature has always been my inspiration,
Right.
and I spend a lot of time outdoors. I've always liked to spend a lot of time outdoors, and still do.
Okay.
And so my first choice is always to paint pictures of real simple, like trees and kind of up close and moss and that type of thing, or birds. I just love to paint birds, and I love to watch birds. So nature's always been my greatest inspiration. But I also try to get to show that in my paintings that are depicted for downtown Spokane, like my arrow leaf balsam root painting, which is kind of yellows, and it's got a lot of the arrow leaf balsam root plant in it, which is native to our area, and just on the hillsides, and then in the background showing like Spokane and Spokane River. So I try to incorporate the wild things that are in Spokane.
Right.
And even in my Davenport paintings, where I try to show the snow falling or the wind blowing or the sun shining after rain. So that kind of thing.
Right. So inspiration from your surroundings.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
are here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which we're not short on. When it comes to
and that's
Spokane.
yeah,
And
we're
Washington
so,
in general, actually.
Yeah, we're so lucky that way. Just so many, just great natural areas, just within walking distance, no matter where you are. Really.
Right. Are there, how do your life experiences, as far as, I mean, not necessarily even a specific moment, but how do some of your life experiences make you see art, or make you see how you're going to convey your art? Is there anything, like, does your mood affect anything that you create, or do you ever find yourself kind of driven by a certain feeling?
Driven by a certain feeling. Well, fall kind of does that to me, I guess. Just the brightness of the colors and wanting to depict it. But I can't say that. Well, I'll take that back. When we were children, my parents built a lake place up on Deep Lake, it's called, and I just fell in love with it, and we still go there. And in fact, we bought a really small cabin next to my folks' place, and then my sister has a place right down the way. And so just being able to, that calm, quiet feeling that is part of being there. I like to try to depict that area and show its serenity and its natural beauty. So I do that in a lot of my paintings. I depict Deep Lake.
Right, and that's probably something very reminiscent from feelings that are brought up, as far as something that's very close to you. So.
And that, to me, the paintings that I do from there are serene.
Right. So would you say, is it safe to say that that's kind of what you aim to say with your art, or just kind of convey a sense of serenity, or some of these, because again, I've seen quite a bit of your work, and it does have a sense of comfort and a sense of just familiarity. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I usually try to depict something happening, as far as like weather or serenity, or if it's weather, it's usually something it's a little more like the wind blowing hard and things blowing around, or snow blowing, or that on rain has just fallen and you're seeing reflections of that.
Sure.
So that's basically what I'm aiming for. But like the Davenport paintings and those, I like to show life there, a lot of like things happening, and and that people remember, or brings back memories to them. Yeah.
Do you feel like your artwork, falls underneath a certain genre, or?
No, I really don't. I haven't tried to emulate anyone in my work. I just try to do what feels right for me. So I can't say that I really, I have followed some artists, but I try to just let it come from me.
You don't plug into a little category.
No.
Which kind of defies the purpose of art.
Yes.
Actually, in a way.
Yeah.
That's actually, when you mentioned that you do follow a couple artists, do you have any inspirations? As far as people that you see and you not necessarily love what you see and you're like, I want to emulate that, but you like the feeling that comes from it, or the emotion that comes from it.
Yeah, I do. I have an artist that I just love her work. Her name's Erin Hansen, and she's out of California, and she does a lot of really bright coastal pictures, and she goes to all the national parks and paints them, and county parks in her area, and they are just I love her work. It is it's visceral when I see it. I just love her work, and her shadows, her light. It's just they're fantastic paintings. And in my past, I love Van Gogh work and Gauguin, so I have read a lot about them and their work. So, but right now I'm just in love with Erin Hansen's work.
Do you feel like you mentioned before that you have an affinity for nature and for the outdoors and the wilderness. Do you feel like it's because they do depict nature and wildlife and wilderness that you have a connection to that? It's safe to say that? Okay.
Absolutely.
And as an artist, you say that you've been pretty much doing your watercolors for the last 5 years, but you've been an artist.
Well, I've been doing watercolor for the last 50 years, actually.
Okay.
But I didn't. I wasn't able to really work at it on a regular basis, just because I was working full time elsewhere and
raising children.
Raising children.
It'll take your time.
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything as far as like how your art has adapted or changed over the years, or have you noticed anything that has changed over the years of being an artist?
Well, what's really changed, I think, is just the amount of time I can put in to artwork, and understanding more of what I love and want to spend time painting versus doing stuff that I think might might be something somebody would like. That has changed. I mean, not that I ever did that, but when people would ask you to do a painting, then I would do what they wanted, and rather than really what I wanted to work on. So
less pleasing others and more with pleasing yourself, making yourself happy with this.
And Kurt has helped me a lot in that. Not choosing what I like, but helping me to understand better composition and what would work and maybe what wouldn't work, which is pretty brave, I think, of someone to be able to tell you that.
Right.
But I appreciate it, and understanding what reproduction really is, and how to make the most of it. I was really just kind of struggling until I met Kurt, and to figure out how to reproduce things and make it look nice and not cheap.
And now you're struggling more because he's in your life.
No, he's helped me a lot, and so have you, Morgan.
So, what are some of the benefits as far as being in Spokane or being in Washington, as far as an artist, especially an artist that's driven by nature?
Yeah, like I said, I love that you can just walk down the road and have, Centennial Trail.
Right.
You can go way out. I spend a lot of my day or days out by 7 Mile and 9 Mile with my running, where I get a lot of inspiration and the vistas of Spokane from there and different ideas about, a composition for a painting or what the river looks like in winter, versus what it looks like in the spring, and that, all those kinds of things, and as well as all the wildlife that is out there.
Right. Now, do you photograph when you go out on scene and then work from your photos?
I usually do. Do I usually do? Yes, I usually do. Yeah, I usually work from a photograph or several photographs is more usually what I do.
Right.
I don't go work. I don't paint outside really. I haven't had much success with that, so I usually get a photo of it and then break it down to the parts that I want.
Right, that you want to capture.
Yeah. And kind of make a conglomeration.
Right. I find plein air very difficult for myself as well, and I feel like I'm on the spot when I'm painting. I gotta get this right, and I'm looking at it right now. And so I second that. I can completely understand painting from a photo because I prefer that as well.
You do?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's practice to some degree, and I'd love to be able to do it, but I just haven't had a whole lot of success with it.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the challenges as far as being an artist in the Spokane area? Or do you feel like you've met any roadblocks or any challenges yet?
No, I really feel like it's been, I think the size of Spokane, for one thing, is really nice. It's not overwhelming. A lot of artists that, that you run into and things like this. I get to meet you guys, and then I get to do this interview. So I haven't run into any particular roadblocks in Spokane. I feel like it's been a great place to explore art.
Wonderful. Now, do you have any habits habits I would call it, but also like self-care as an artist that you allow your creativity to flourish? Do you feel like you do anything, or you have any habits that kind of help that creativity flow?
Well, there again, I think it's running. Yeah, it's relaxing to me. It gets me outdoors every day, and I take a lot of my photos that I end up using for paintings while I'm out. So I think that's my biggest habit that I have formed, and I've done that for a really long time. So I think it's been a big, keeps me healthy and
and a big factor.
Keeps my brain sharp.
Right. Yeah, and you're doing two things that you love at one time.
Right.
So.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, are there any? And as an artist, I feel like I struggle with this sometimes. But are there any things that can be distractions for you that you try and avoid as far as when it comes to being creative as an artist?
Well, I don't really have anything that I find is a big distraction. I just sometimes I want to get up and not settle down and do just work. Just do it, or just sit down and make a decision, and I'll find that. But I'm usually pretty good about pretty disciplined about getting in there and do what I need to do.
Right.
But
now
want to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you've got to want to do it. So now as far as like opportunities, how do you seek out opportunities as an artist, or how does that work for you? Like, how do you see that?
Well, once again, when I started actually thinking about selling more. I'd done commissions, but I hadn't put, really had anything in stores or anything like that. So I found Kurt at Spokane Art Supply, and I decided to try to make greeting cards out of it because it's sellable.
Right, yeah.
And so after I did that, I got them into several different places around town, and after I had a little portfolio together, and found people are pretty receptive to that, and have done pretty well with that. So, and then some of these places, like the Davenport and Auntie's, they have my larger paintings too, which have done really well there. So, so that's how I've expanded to date. I tried some with Etsy, but I didn't have any, success. It was a lot of work and not a lot of
payoff. Yeah.
And so, and then some commission work as well. And that's usually word of mouth, or people have seen my work at Huckleberry's or the Davenport and asked me to paint something for them. So I've done some of that too.
Now, do you, this kind of follows up with this question here, but as far as cultivating your client pool, is this something that you mentioned that you do commissions as well? Do you have a returning client pool and a lot of word of mouth, it sounds like?
Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've had, I have several people that have come to me and bought things that I've already done, and then I've done commission work for several different groups and people. So it's not something I've really gone hard after because I do like to draw what I like to draw.
Right, of course, yeah.
And so I haven't really gone after that. But, at some point I might. But right now I'd kind of rather do the paintings that I'd like to do.
Right. And if you're selling it on the side, it's all the better.
Yeah.
But you're producing what you love.
Yes.
Yeah.
But right now I have sold what I've made, so I kind of like to stay with it.
Right. Now, is there a piece off the top of your head, not to put you on the spot, but is there a piece off the top of your head or pieces that are close to your heart as far as something that again, you were really emotionally driven when you made, or?
Yeah, I have a couple. The one, my favorite, I think, that I've painted, is of a birch tree right in front of our cabin that you can go out on the little deck and you're just sitting there with your cup of tea, and I did a series. I haven't done the spring one yet, but I did summer, fall, and winter of this same tree, same background. Everything's the same except for
different stages.
Stages, fall and winter and summer. And I really like the winter one, but I think my favorite is the summer one because of the colors and the calmness of the water. And I really like that painting because it is serene and the colors are cheerful and nice. So I like that one, and I also have really come to like the winter Davenport one that I did. And it shows the snowing really hard, and there's lots of people bustling around with sleds and their Christmas garb on, and showing parties and all that kind of stuff in there. And I've had several people come to me and tell me stories about the Davenport since after they saw that, or they bought it and then they email me and tell me what, like people got engaged there, and it was just like this when it was snowy, just like this when we got engaged. And one gal texted me and said that her father used to run a radio show in the basement of the Davenport, and they'd run all around in the basement. And she said it was like our own little place down there. So you know, it's just really these really cool historical stories about Spokane.
Well, and also it sounds like, especially with the stories with the painting of the Davenport, that it's this way of like connecting and bridging the gaps and having a way to relate to people. Which is what art is at the end of the day. Relating to other people.
I love that people get in touch with me and talk to me about their, you know, their history there.
Now, that's been fun. What do you think, as far as kind of coming full circle here too, and adding on to our question we just talked about, how do you feel, like, what do you feel the role that art plays in society? Do you feel like it has a mold, or it has a role that it plays?
Well, for me and for those I know, I think it's a way to express ourselves in kind of the most, and our values in the clearest terms that we know how. And so I would say that it's just a way for people to express themselves.
Right. Yeah. And as far as like the importance of making art accessible, and it's interesting that you do make cards, because it's kind of in the print world that I'm seeing now too, where art is becoming affordable and accessible to everybody, and not just one small group of people. Do you feel like it's important for not only the arts, but art to be available to everyone, regardless of what their socioeconomical? I
do feel like it is, and I feel like it's important for people to be able to do artwork themselves.
Right.
Not only be able to afford it, but be able to
create.
To create, since I do have kids and I do have grandchildren, I see that each child has a different way of expressing themselves. And I've got one grandkid that just colors like this, is just a mad hatter, and then the other ones are more careful, and they want to do different things. They want to make doll clothes, they want to paint pictures. Each one of them has something else that they you know, they like to do.
Right.
So I think it's important to help children and to be able to do the same thing as express themselves.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like almost like the deepest level that we can.
Yeah, right.
Which is a part of ourselves. I mean, I guess that it makes our art very much a part of our own being.
It does.
Every time we create.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So
it's kind of a neat thing to think.
It is, isn't it?
It'll go on.
Yeah, I know.
Past you.
And they get a little bit of you. Like
you
get a little bit of yourself. So.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for talking to us tonight, and just thank you for spending your evening telling us about what art means to you and how it makes you feel.
Thank you for having me, and Kurt, thank you. Yes, thanks so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.